Hello, everyone, and welcome to Donuts with D-Day Live.
Second episode.
Second episode. And today we have a live audience right in front of us, and most of them submitted a question. And we had 100 questions gathered, thanks Ms. Omschler. And we had 45 playground questions, 13 food cafeteria questions, 8 new school questions, 2 cockroach infestation, 6 history of school,
Okay.
field trip 7, longer class periods 1, emotional support dog 1, art class 2, blue blast 2, water damage in Miss Pearson's room 2, chewing gum 3, fidgets 2, fun learning suggestions 1, incentives 1, possible agriculture class 1, bullying 1, possible Spanish class 1, taking computers home 1, study sync 1, science lab rehab 2, budget 3, large gym proposal 1, foods at school 4, donuts 1, more bathroom polls privacy 1, possible cooking class 1, upgrade to in locker room 1, punishment 1, possible chess club 1, no hats 1, fire truck ride for 8th grade 1, sports 2, more electives 1, and random tech questions that we were not able to read. So let's get started.
Okay, so if any of you need rides at 7 tonight when we're finished, no, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
All right.
Let's get going.
Our first question is, can we get a usable pull-up bar?
So let's get it right out of the way right now because it seems like the bulk of the questions had to do with a playground.
Yep.
Or something of the playground. So I am never opposed to a playground. I'm never opposed to what you guys want, what is applicable to a 5 through 8, because that is going to look much differently than pre-K through 4 as far as what a playground is. We also have to keep in mind that wherever you put up this playground, they also use this facilities for softball practices when you're little, soccer practices, etc. But I'm not opposed to having any playground equipment. I'm not opposed of what that is. I haven't seen really any ideas from anyone about what they would like because, you know, when you're 5th through 8th grade, it's kind of similar from pre-K through 4th. There is such a wide margin there about what they want and what their interests are that I want to try to hit everyone. And then where would be the location? You know, to try to keep everybody, because we also play PE out there as well. So I'm not opposed to it. I'd like to hear, you know, if everybody had a survey or something about what they're looking for or what they have. I don't anticipate any problems with if that's how we want to move forward to, you know, think about what those cost. I will tell you, I put in several playgrounds in the course of my career. They're pretty proud of those things. So the last district I put one in, it was about $585,000. So, and you know, you think you get a lot for that, and you don't, because there's a lot of moving parts. You know, anytime that we instruct or change something with regards to the school, like we're going to build some classrooms, you know, we have to have our architect sign off on that for a certificate of occupancy. So it's not as easy as just throwing up classrooms and doing this and that. So, yeah, or build a playground.
All right. Could we be able to choose what electives we have?
You know, I'm sure there's a lot of questions on schedules, and there's a lot of questions on what those look like. I try not to get in the weeds on that, which means I think those questions should be better suited and answered between teachers and administrators, being principals, building principals. I think you need the teachers' input on that. I think you probably should take the kids' input on that. You put together a schedule, and then you run from there. I'm not opposed to if kids want to. I think it's a matter of how does that work in the schedule as far as, because I think you move collectively kind of with per grade level, correct? So as I'm looking at that schedule, like for example, hypothetically, the English switches with math, the math switches with English, and that's how the A and B sections work. So if you add that in, and let's say a 5 through 8 could take an elective class, what would that look like then for lunches, PE? I think you could do it if you had open PE classes to where 5 through 8 are all in the same, and your lunches could be 3 or 4 different sections and 5 through 8. Does that make sense? But when you're constricted when it comes to grade levels, I'd like to look at that more closely, and maybe I'm not the person that is the expert in that. You know, I think that's a building decision, that's a kid decision, that's a teacher decision, that's a principal decision.
Could we have more field trips like the Kibbe Museum, and going to the park?
So field trips are a little, I have to answer it in both ways, and it's going to come out of both sides of my mouth. So we have to make sure that, and I believe the Kibbe Museum and all those trips are curricular bound, and so there's no objection to that. Sometimes the objection becomes, if those students are out for science and it's an all day, then what does that do for the other classes that are also here? So with regard to that is, if you're out all day for science, then those students have to come back and make up all the rest of the classes because they went all day for science, etc. Like if we go somewhere for a history one, or if we go somewhere for an English, I'm not opposed to that. It just, I need to look at it simply on, if we're out 5, 6, 7 days for that particular event, how does that apply then to the rest of the classes and the rest of the teachers when they come back? Is that a made up class? Is that because they're missing instruction from the rest of the day then? Not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I wouldn't say that. It's how does that work within the schedule? How does that work within how the schedule relates to everyone else and all the rest of the classes? I think you could also make an argument. We have 4 bus drivers right now. By far, spring and fall are the most difficult times for us with regards to bus drivers. I think in that particular case, I think we did have enough bus drivers when it comes to all of those events. I don't think that was the issue. I think I would have probably liked a little more clarification on how long were these going, like, is it all day? What does that do to the rest of the teachers? I'd like to have, other teachers' input, and I'm not for sure that's me. Ms. Thompson and I, we just prepare the transportation. I do approve field trips. I get that. Curricular field trips are reimbursed by the state of Illinois. So anything that's tied to curriculum. So field trips that are curriculum tied, taking kids to and from school, that is all reimbursed at currently 72%. So if we spend $1, we get 72 cents back. Extracurriculars are not. So one could make an argument, why don't we do more field trips and less sporting events? And then I'm going to tell you it's Carthage. Good luck with that. You answer that, because I'm not touching that. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't see. I think I turned them down this year for a couple of reasons. On one, I wanted to see what it would do for the rest of the classes that are here. When you're out 5 or 6 days, then that means those individuals, let's say they were going to be out for 2 days. That means 2 days of their instruction would have had to make up. Some of our students have a hard time when they are absent here, and I always have to keep that in mind. It's not that I don't like them. It's just I have to think of all aspects of that. So,
Why can't 5th and 6th graders have better jerseys?
So I'd like to say that I have some input in jerseys. I believe that our sports boosters actually help with those jerseys. I try also not to get in the weeds of what those jerseys look like, as long as they are school colors, they're school appropriate. I think I do kind of agree with you. There's a rotation for that. I'd like to see them maybe a little dressier. I think sometimes when we use the jerseys that we use, it's no disrespect to our 5th, 6th grade. I don't think they had anything to do with it. It almost looks like a practice gear rather than a game gear. So I don't know what the costs are. I know when I used to buy jerseys and it had to come out of district funds, you think 25 jerseys, but each one of those jerseys, depending on what it is, it may run from, for a complete outfit, $100 to $150 per kid. So if you look at 15, 18, 20 kids, you look at each one being $3,000, $4,000. But again, show me what they want. I don't care if they got an idea. I'm a big Duke fan, by the way. You can boo all you want, but that's fine. I love their black jerseys. I love their royal blue jerseys. So if we want to look like that, I'm not going to oppose that because I'm a Duke fan.
Do fundraisers help fund the school?
To a certain aspect. They are a small piece of the puzzle. So our budget is, $5.4 million. So when you look at fundraisers, and that's not any disrespect of fundraisers, and for those that may not hear that on your channel, those are announcements and the bell. So my thought is, with regards to fundraisers, is any money that is contributed to the district, of course it helps. Of course I'm not going to say no. Of course I'm not going to turn it down. In the scheme of things, any penny helps, and we appreciate that. But does that go to our operating funds? Does that go to, pay teachers and do those things? No, it doesn't. Does that go to maybe help kids and do other things? I've had them to where they wanted to buy new equipment for playground and stuff like that. I think that's fantastic. But any curriculum tied material that may be purchased from a fundraiser actually has to go through our curriculum committee and our school board before it can be utilized. Because the school board and the curriculum committee both need to approve the curriculum that we're using. So if it's for example, a novel, let's say if it's a book, let's say it's something that's to be used in a classroom, there is a process for that, and that should be done first.
Can we sleep in class?
Sure. There's consequences to it. You can act out in class. But always, there is typically a consequence, whether it's positive or negative, depending on which action that you do. So I can't tell you, and I can't force someone to not sleep in class. I just would like the kids to know that if you choose to do that, A, you're going to miss material that you're going to need for the next exam or quiz, and B, you're also probably going to have some sort of consequence given to you. Don't complain to the teacher or the principal or the superintendent that you got in trouble. At the end of the day, you take ownership for your own actions. So if you choose to sleep, you choose the consequence that goes with it. Does that make sense? You choose to speed, well, you choose to possibly get pulled over and get a ticket. That's the way it works in life.
Why are there roaches in the locker rooms?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I pay a lot of money for that. So we pay a service every month to come in and spray. And every month I still get complaints that we still have them, and we still have, other pests, such as mice. I will tell you that the number one thing that those species need to have in order to, they need to have a habitat, which we provide, dark spaces, moisture, lockers, etc., and they need to have some sort of food substance. I will tell you the number one thing that we run into is that students complain about having mice and cockroaches, but then have food in their locker or drinks in their locker, whether it be in the locker room or whether it be in their locker, and then complain that they have pests. So we spray them. We are on a monthly fee for those. I wish they would just disappear. I've got to tell you that this is not uncommon for schools across the state to have those items. I wish maybe we could do a better job of getting rid of them. But if we continue to put the food and the habitat for them to be here, I'm afraid they're still going to be here unless we can minimize that. So, and I will say, because we have, 50 kids in the room, that we need to take ownership for that. Like if you see that and you don't want cockroaches going through your stuff and you don't want mice doing that, then you need to address that. You need to either tell someone that somebody's got that in there, you need to make a point to say, hey, get rid of that, it's been there since November, or throw that stuff away. I don't know what else to tell you. If you're one of those that do not have it, well, kudos to you, and keep reporting the sightings, and we'll keep trying to address it the best that we can.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yep. All right. Can we have a better kickball field?
We can. Since we are surrounded by, 4 streets, we're pretty limited on where we can go and where we can participate outside. I think behind me, I would show you Exhibit A. That's about all you have here. So I guess if we're asking, can we tear that up and resurface that? Can we make it flatter? Can we do those things? I think we probably could look at that. Is it have some hills and valleys in there? That comes from kids typically playing when it's wet outside. And you create divots and you create small hills. Eventually the water sits there. It makes it worse. But as the first I've heard of it, if we need something better, if we need to reseed that, if we need to do that. But then going back to what I originally said in the first question, people use this little field for your little 3s and 4s and 5 years old. They use it for practices all year long. So we would have to stop people using this, then do all those corrections, and then keep people off that until it grows back. Does that make sense? Kind of like your lawn. So.
Why don't we go outside more often?
I don't know. I don't know if that's my call. So I think that's a call that maybe kids should bring up to, their teachers or, the principal. My advice is the teachers first. Talk to your teachers about it, and then go to the principal and ask about it. Sometimes it depends. I think that's an open-ended question. So you're probably asking, why don't we go outside to have more classes? Couple of things. Once you open up that toothpaste and you squirt it all out, it's hard to put the toothpaste back in there. Because every time there's a nice day, I'm going to tell you what you guys would want, same thing I want. Why aren't we going outside today? Why are we going outside today? Why aren't we? And there's some times where you just need to be inside because of the teachers need their resources inside. Other times, I have to be honest, what is good for one person in the room or two may not be for everybody else in the room. And I don't think that's the teacher's fault for saying, I want to stay inside. It's my classroom. This is I think what we should do, and this is what I think is better for them. I think that's a conversation that is better suited, for the teachers. And then I think the kids need to ask, but they need to respect the teacher's decision. They say no, that's it. I mean, I'm not for sure there's any arguing to that. They need to respect the decision, just like the kids respect that if you do get the benefit of going outside, then you need to be thankful that you went outside. Does that make sense? I mean, it's a two-way street, so I think sometimes that goes a long way. It's okay. I find it ironic. This is Donuts with D-Day, and second episode, we have no donuts.
Have no donuts.
0 donuts. I think that's what the funny part about it is.
And we have a lot of people watching us.
A lot of people watching.
All right. Why can't we have food or drinks in the classroom?
So, well, we just addressed that with, the pest part. As a classroom teacher, okay, I remember doing this as a classroom teacher. Okay, I think sometimes that once you open that door, if kids can be trusted to A, not make messes, they can be trusted that B, they have their drinks and they don't get spilled or anything like that. But I also know that we have a handbook committee, and that handbook committee typically makes those decisions that the schools follow. And I think our handbook at the middle school says something like, there are no food or drinks in classrooms or something like that. Then I think we need to honor that. I think that all teachers need to be consistent and honor that. I think if they want a change with regards to how that policy is read or what that rule is in the handbook, then I think that they need to go to their teachers and have that conversation, and maybe the teachers can advocate for them when that handbook committee comes up about what they want. And I think you make a good argument. Let's be honest. We had water bottles during COVID. So as a kid's perspective, you're saying, well, why don't we have water bottles now? I get that. So, but at the end of the day, I think that is something that the building has decided that is in the best interest of all kids not to have it. So if you'd like a change, if you want a change to something, then you need to get involved and ask your teachers and ask your principal, because there'll be a handbook committee and they'll be making the rules here in the next couple months for what you'll have to follow next year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But voice your opinion in the appropriate way, not in the non-appropriate way. Yeah.
All right. Can we have a half day on Mondays and Wednesdays?
No. So let me explain that a school calendar that is made every year is 185 calendar days. 5 of those are for emergency days. There's about 4 of those for teacher in-service days, half and full. Gives you to 176 instructional days of time. In Illinois does a full day of school when it's 5 instructional hours minus your lunches or a free period. I believe Missouri and Iowa, do not follow that. So that's why Missouri went to the Monday through Thursday, is because they don't go on how many hours, they go on how many days. So we have the days, and we also have the hours per day that we have to be in session. So Illinois School Code dictates what that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I will tell you, the teachers overwhelmingly kind of decided that we're going to go back to those Fridays off in April, May, like we did a couple years ago. So I think, we'll look forward to that. So that'll be good. I don't think Illini West did. So any 8th graders, sorry, you're just stuck. You're going to be, having all your, my bad. So.
All right. Why do we have so many classes?
Well, some of the classes are statutorily assigned. Some of the classes, in order for you to have a full day of instruction, you have to have a certain classes. You have to have a certain amount of time for those classes, and you have to make sure that you are in there accordingly. With regards to the schedule itself, why we have so many classes, I think that you can have a lot of classes, and that will make you shorter time, in class, because you got to get through them all. Or you go back to a couple years ago, and I don't care either way. You go back to a couple years ago to where you have 6 or 7 or whatever it was, 8, and you go to those. Did I do that? Is that the 6, 7 thing?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to say 8, 9 after that? I'm an old guy. Is that what? I don't know what that is.
No.
So let me just put my hands in my lap. I don't know what that is. So then, so you can go back to then if you want 6, 7 hour. Really, it's the start time, it's the end time, how long the classes are, what you want those classes to look like. If you kind of want them longer, or if you want them shorter, if you want more electives, if you don't want electives, that's all based on what is the needs of your particular building and what your staff and kind of decides they want for the needs of their kids. At the primary school, as it's going to look differently. At the high school, it's also going to look differently. It's based on what the kids' needs, and it's also based on their age. So.
Why can't we have longer lunch and recess?
So longer lunch and recess, just like I mentioned, and some of these are kind of weaving together. So what I said was you start the day at this time and you end the day at this time. In order to get more lunches or more recess time, you're going to have to take that time away somewhere, somehow. So do you take that then from your classes, or do we extend the school day or make you start earlier? So that's where it's kind of like, I see everybody in this goes, no, 20 minutes is good. We're good. We'll be all right. Because nobody wants to go, well, if I give you 10 extra, that's got to come from somewhere. So do I add that, or do I make that less? So that's where I'm coming from on, we have to have those hours of instruction per day to meet our limits for the state of Illinois, and that excludes the recess, excludes the lunch times. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you go to Harvard, MIT, or none of the above?
Oh, it was none of the above. So I can explain. So I graduated in Abingdon High School before everybody probably in the room was born. I graduated from Carl Sandburg Community College with an associate's degree. I graduated from Western Illinois University with a bachelor's degree. I graduated from University of Illinois with a master's degree in teaching. I graduated again from so back to that. So graduated high school, 1991, from Abingdon High School. Then I went to community college, graduated with Associates of Science there. Graduated from WIU with a Bachelor's of Arts there. I got my master's from the University of Illinois in a master's in teaching and learning. I always thought to be an effective administrator, you really need to be a good teacher. How do you tell others to do it if you don't know? And then I got an extended master's degree in the principalship. I then went and got an extended, it's called an education specialist degree from also the University of Illinois. That's your superintendent's license. That's called an ED.S. And then I got just a couple years ago, I think 3 or 4, I got my doctorate degree from Aurora University up by Chicago, in Aurora, Illinois. So, yeah.
All right. Why don't we buy a new school?
So, everybody wants a new school. So, not opposed to that either. But there's a lot of facets that go into how do you get a new school, okay? So being an elementary district, we are only allowed to borrow 6.7% of our total equalized assessed value. You have no idea what that means, and neither does anybody else, maybe except a couple people. So what that means is we would have to borrow, and we are allowed to borrow a certain amount of money. It's not enough to build a new school. So we're going to have to exceed that debt limit. And that goes to the taxpayers. So we looked at this 5 years ago, and I think it's coming up again, and I'm not opposed to it. So we looked at building a new facility, very, very general, however many square feet it would be for 400 kids, and 5 years ago it was like $28.5 million. What does that do to the average taxpayer? So the average taxpayer in a home, if your house is appraised for $100,000, that was going to raise their taxes $600 for every $100,000 it's appraised to. So $1,200 a year if it's appraised at $200,000. Some of our people here in our community are on a fixed income. And I understand that. About 48% actually are low income or a fixed income. So we're asking them to change their taxes 20% or more based on getting a new school. At this current rate, a new school right now, I just looked into it, it's $428 a square foot. So these are asbestos tiles, so they're 9 by 9. So if we just extend them out a little bit, a 12 by 12, that would be $428 a square foot. So with that, and the new and interest rates have went up. So when we looked at it, interest rates were way down. So interest rates right now are hovering around 6%. It has went up to 32 million because to build a new school now, it's more than that on square feet. And so it would cost around $32 million, $32.5 million. I'm not opposed to any of that. I just, we really have to do a good job as a community explaining the positives and also the responsibilities of doing that. Does that make sense? So the positives are we get a brand new school. Positives are we get all these great things. Positives are we may get a better facility in order for us to be educated in. There's no denying that. But also I have to give the responsibility of this is what it will do to our taxpayers for the next 20 years, 27 years, 35 years, whatever your loan amount is. And so it's my responsibility to give the good and the bad, and then let the Board of Education and the constituents, the members of Carthage, to let me know what they would like us to do moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Why is the food so bad?
So, back in the day when I was growing up, a wee little guy, they could cook things kind of like homemade, okay? You could still do that a little bit. But I think we talked about this last time. And please don't quote me on it. It was 09, 010. I think President Obama was in office. And Mrs. Obama made this a push for healthy eating, in her school lunches. So the sizes of portions and also how much you need as far as what has to be offered is done by the Department of Defense and also the school lunch program. So there is a method to when you're asking for why do I have this fruit or this vegetable, because we have to offer those types of combinations or so much in each category in order to fulfill that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, yeah, some people like some people like the others. My advice to you is Mr. Rowland, who used to be here, is in charge of all of our cafeteria now. I would just touch base with him and send him an email and just say, hey, look, is there some way that you can come over here to the junior high and maybe we can talk to you with the student council about maybe some changes or what I'd like to see in the lunchroom. Does that make sense? Like a salad bar, I think we talked. Yeah.
Why can't we have anything fun anymore like Blue Blast?
Well, I don't want to say we don't have anything fun, but I would probably say with Blue Blast was a great thing, and I think I got some teachers in the audience. Blue Blast is always a great thing until we get time at the end of the quarter where some kids got to go somewhere and some kids didn't. And then Blue Blast turned into not so much of a blast for me. Because then that's when the conversations start popping in and we receive phone calls on why little Sally can't go, why little Johnny can't go. It's ridiculous. So what started out as a great like, incentive turned into the negatives were outweighing the positives. I think we should have some incentives here. I'm not saying that. I think there should be some things and some rewards for doing the right thing. But I think maybe we need to take a step back and look at what that actually looks like and how that is structured in the buildings. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I think we've got kids here that probably were on the receiving end of that. Like, at the end of the quarter, some people are like, I don't know why. Here I got this one detention. I didn't know what it was. I thought I didn't. Or there was an absence or something like that. That were part of the criteria. But then that created then issues. So I think we need to take a step back. Let's figure out what would be comparable from students and teachers and administration to know what would be a better way of doing that, and then having that conversation. Not opposed to it, not at all. Nope.
Is there going to be a CMS PTO fun run?
I'm not part of PTO. I hope so. I don't know. I can tell you what we're looking at right now. So I approached the board last board meeting. I think Miss Roberts in the room, so she was here and she saw it. So she is. So I think one of the big issues that we have here is we have some students that, let's be honest, it's really tough to get all the school supplies that we need for day one. It's tough. It's tough on some, it's tough on others. And I presented this in the last board meeting, and I think it'll pick up steam that, like, we put all the stuff that you needed in grade, let's say 5. We got 5 in the room, and what those would be. We have then targeted with a company, it's called First Day School Supplies, that everything that is on that list would go in a box and ready for you on day one. No pushing and shoving in Walmart, no shoving people out of the way. You'd have your folders, you'd have stuff. I'm not saying that you can't individualize. I'm not saying that if you want a Michael Kors backpack. And the only reason I know what that is because I have girls in my household and I found out what Michael Kors is. Otherwise I wouldn't know. So I'm not saying that you can't have that. But how nice would it be that you show up and in your classroom on your desk and it has a number 5 on it. And when you open it up, all your school supplies are in that box and ready to go. No going, no searching. You still want to get a different backpack? Great. You still want other Hello Kitty folders? Great. I don't know if that's what you want. But all of that would be ready for you on day one. Ready to go. I think that is such a positive for our school. We haven't charged school fees in 2 years. I just look at it and think we're a public school. Financially, we're doing right. How do we give back to those that we have dedicated our lives and careers to, which is the kids? Well, how about if we make it to where we don't charge school fees? How about if maybe we start looking at the ideas of we're paying for school supplies and you show up on that day one and you have it? Is it expense to the district? Yeah, I'll give you a ballpark. It's $33,000 to give every kid in the district from K through 8 their stuff that they need for school. But on the flip side to that, if we're not thinking that they're in the best interest of those kids, and we're not thinking of them first, and that's where we should be, why are the doors open? It's always going to be kid first, no matter what our decisions are. That's just my 2 cents. So, I think everybody in the room would be like, I don't have to go, like with my grandparents or parents to Walmart, then there's a fight, somebody's fighting with a parent in there trying to get their stuff, they're all out of it, what am I going to do? It's all taken care of for you. It's all taken care of and it's there on day one. How would that be?
That'd be cool.
Be great? Trying.
How long have you been superintendent?
Total or here?
Whatever you want to do.
So this is my 11th year as a superintendent. It is my 5th year. I'm finishing my 5th year here. I was a teacher. I taught 11th grade English at Auburn for 14 years. I was a principal, a 6 through 12 principal at Tri-City Junior High and High School outside of Springfield. And I was a superintendent at Waverly for 6 years before I came here. So this is my 30th year. You can do the math.
Why is our school so old?
Well, because it has a born date on the front of it, like your sodas. And I think it has a born date of whatever date it is, and that makes it old. I mean, my grandma is 99. I think they're right at the same age. I'm not for sure, but they're pretty close to being the same. We may give a birthday party for both, the building and my grandma at the same time. So,
Why can't we have phones?
so I can explain how all that law went into effect. Anybody that saw me talk about this in your lecture. So the phone issue came up after, unfortunately, the Columbine massacre that happened in Columbine, Colorado, many, many years ago. And so the federal government came out and said, no phones. We're not doing that anymore. But then in the stipulation of that federal law, they said, we're going to let individual states decide on how that phone is. The state then came out and said, we will allow individual districts to police how they want their cell phone.
All right, one of the questions, it's not the one that I'm holding in my hand. Why do we only have 2 balls on the playground?
I have no idea. I don't know. I'm not over here, so I don't know. I think that'd be a great question for the playground supervision. If that's not the answer that they feel they like to hear, then they should probably approach that through the teacher and the principal to find better guidance on. I'm assuming it's because the more, I guess, playground balls you have, probably the more percentage you would have to get hit with a ball or risk of injury, but I'm just not for sure. I don't know.
Someone was wondering why we can't wear hats in school.
It's part of our handbook. I think it goes back to the respect portion of that. I think that in the handbook, I think it says that no hats only on hat day. I think that's what they have agreed upon, so that's what we do. I'm not for sure of any school that I'm aware of or have been affiliated with, or any that I know across a state that allows hats to be worn during the class. And let's be honest, it depends on which hat. Because what if you sit behind that person and now you can't see the smart board or you can't see something? So now it's kind of taken away from your education.
What really happened when the chicken crossed the road?
I don't know. I hope there was no traffic.
Let's see. Why can't we have more privacy in the bathroom stall?
I guess I'm not for sure what that is referencing. So help me out. Are there doors on the stalls?
Yeah. Well, it depends. Like the urinals there isn't, but the actual stalls there.
But there's dividers there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I would have to look at that and have more specificity on why that individual feels that there's not enough privacy. So.
Can we get donuts once a week?
How about just donuts for this thing?
Yeah, I know, right? Why can't we have tables outside to eat lunch?
I think we're working on that. The only thing that I would stipulate is if we allow that and allow tables, then those tables need to be A, taken care of, and B, the trash needs to find its way into the trash can. And other than that, I think that's great. But I also think in the student's perspective, if that is granted, then they have to take some ownership on picking up after themselves, or respecting if someone would say, no, you can't go out today, because of the weather.
All right, this is going to be our final question for
What?
this episode.
Come on.
It's only 3:05. Why haven't we repaired water damage in Miss Pearson's room yet?
It's a good question. I was made aware of this, I don't know, 6-7 months ago. Our maintenance man went up there and checked. He repaired some cosmetic things, but I think it's still there. The pictures that I've seen is the chimney has kind of maybe pulled somewhat away from that building. So we're going to have a mason or a brickman come in to see what we need to do to close that gap. I'm not for sure that's in our scope of how we can handle that. But with cold weather, I don't know much about that, so I'm not for sure that applies to like, do you have to put that on when it's hot in summer, or how does that work? That I don't know.
All right. I would like to thank everyone for coming to watch, even though they all abandoned us, besides two of
There's
them.
2 people. Yeah.
Thanks. Let's clap for those 2.
Yeah. And your sister doesn't count.
And she has a couch. She left during it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for speaking with me.
You bet. Thanks for having me. When's our next time?
I don't know.
Okay.
We need to do another one of these.
Yep. We'll do another one.
Maybe with donuts.
Maybe with donuts. Sounds great.